Welcome back. We've been diving deep into cybersecurity in the age of AI, but today we're going back to basics. We're talking about the absolute bedrock of all information security, the CIA triad. Seriously, every single concept in this field, every defense we build, stands on this one framework. Getting this right is non-negotiable. So, let's get into it.
So let me just start by asking you a question. How do we actually trust our digital world? I mean, think about it. When you check your bank account online, how do you know for sure that the balance you're seeing is correct? Or when you send a supposedly private message, how can you be sure no one else is reading it? This, right here, is the fundamental problem that cybersecurity was created to solve.
And here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with the bedrock concept itself. Then, we'll take a really close look at what I like to call the digital fingerprint. We'll cover the other two pillars of security. And then, it's your turn. You'll get to play detective. After that, we'll debrief the case files and take a peek at where these threats are headed next.
Okay, let's dive right into our first section, the cybersecurity bedrock. Look, the CIA triad is one of the very first and most important concepts any cybersecurity pro has to master. It's the lens we use to look at pretty much every security challenge out there.
So, the triad is made up of three core principles. First, you've got confidentiality, which is all about keeping data private. Then there's integrity, which means making sure data is accurate and nobody's messed with it. And finally, availability, which is simply about making sure you can get to your data when you need it. Now, here's the kicker. If even one of these fails, the security of the whole system is compromised. We're going to kick off our deep dive with integrity. You can think of this as the digital forensics part of the job. It's how we prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that our digital evidence, our data, hasn't been tampered with. And the number one tool we use for this is called hashing. So what is it? Hashing is a process that takes any piece of data, a document, a message, you name it, and it runs it through a special algorithm to create a unique code. We call that code a hash, but honestly, the best way to think of it is as a digital fingerprint. It's one of a kind for that specific file. So how does this actually work in the real world? Well, it's a pretty straightforward four-step process. First, you take a file. Step 2, you generate its unique hash, its fingerprint. Then, say someone comes along and modifies that file, even just a tiny bit. Well, when you run step 4 and generate the hash again, it will be completely different. And that's it. That's how security systems automatically monitor files and sound the alarm the second an unauthorized change happens. And this is what we call the avalanche effect. Just look at this. The original sentence gives us one hash. But by adding just a single 4-letter word, very, look what happens. We get a completely different and totally unrecognizable hash. It's that extreme sensitivity that makes hashing so incredibly powerful for spotting even the tiniest unauthorized change. Now, this is super important. Please don't confuse hashing with encryption. They are not the same thing. Hashing is all about verifying authenticity. It's about proving the data is what it says it is. Encryption, on the other hand, uses a key to scramble readable data into unreadable nonsense to protect the content itself. So to put it simply, hashing proves it's unaltered, encryption makes it a secret. Okay, so that's integrity. Now, let's turn our attention to the other two pillars of the triad. Confidentiality, which is all about protecting those secrets, and availability, which is about ensuring access. They're just as critical, and believe me, they face their own unique set of threats. When it comes to confidentiality, the whole game is to prevent unauthorized disclosure, and the threats are literally everywhere. You've got the massive data breaches you read about in the news, you've got attackers eavesdropping on your connection at the coffee shop, or, and this one's tough, you have a disgruntled employee just walking out the door with a USB drive full of your most sensitive customer data. A classic eavesdropping attack works exactly like this. You connect to that free public Wi-Fi, right? Well, an attacker on that same network can just snatch the data packets right out of the air. And if that data isn't encrypted, they can read everything. Your passwords, your messages, you name it. It is a textbook breach of confidentiality. Now let's talk about availability. The threat here isn't about theft. It's all about disruption. In a denial of service attack, an attacker just floods a server with so many bogus requests that it gets completely overwhelmed. All its resources get used up, and for regular users like you and me, the service just crashes. It becomes completely unavailable. So how do we fight back against that? Well, one of the best ways is something called load balancing. Instead of all the traffic hitting just one server, a load balancer acts like a digital traffic cop. It distributes all the requests evenly across multiple servers. This way, no single server gets overwhelmed, which ensures the service stays up and available for everyone.
All right, you've been listening patiently. Now it's your turn to be the digital detective. I'm going to present 3 case files. For each one, your mission is to tell me which principle of the CIA triad has been violated. You ready? Okay, here is case file number 1. An online banking portal gets slammed with a massive surge of malicious traffic, and it crashes. Customers can't log in, they can't access their accounts. Which principle was breached here?
Let's move on to case file number 2. A rogue employee copies a confidential customer list onto a thumb drive and sells it to a direct competitor. Private company data is now in the hands of the competition. Which principle was violated? And for our final case, an attacker manages to intercept a bank transfer. They secretly change the payment amount from $5,000 to $500,000 before it ever reaches the bank. The data has been altered. The records are now wrong. What's the violation here?
All right, pencils down. Let's debrief and see how you did. Being able to instantly identify which principle has been broken is the absolute first step in understanding and responding to any cybersecurity incident. This is exactly the kind of analysis you do on an entry-level certification exam.
And here are the answers. The website crash was a clear loss of availability. The data theft was a massive breach of confidentiality. And that altered transaction, a textbook violation of integrity. Go ahead and take a screenshot of this slide. Seriously, it's a perfect little reference card for nailing down these core concepts for good.
So, we've covered the fundamentals, we've nailed down the triad. But we can't stop there. We have to look ahead, because artificial intelligence is completely changing the game. The new reality is that attackers are using AI to automate their work and scale up their attacks. For instance, AI can be used to hammer away at hashing algorithms, constantly searching for what we call hash collisions. That's the holy grail for an attacker. It's when 2 totally different files manage to produce the exact same digital fingerprint. If they can do that, our whole system of integrity checks can break down. The game is absolutely evolving. Now let's tie all of this into where we're going next. Think about many of the confidentiality threats we talked about, like eavesdropping or even that insider stealing data. A lot of the time, those attacks don't start with some super complex technical hack. Nope, they often start by exploiting the single weakest link in any security system, human psychology. And that leads us perfectly into our preview for the next chapter, social engineering. We're going to explore phishing, pretexting, and all the other attacks that prey on human trust. Because as you can see, a successful social engineering attack can compromise confidentiality, integrity, and availability. It really all connects. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.